Well, I think we're going to get started. Good morning, good afternoon for our guests from Europe joining us today, and welcome everyone. My name is Anne Kappel, co-founder of Altix Consulting, and we're thrilled to have you join us today for this important and timely conversation on how industrial companies can unlock real, measurable value from AI, not just in isolated pilots, but across the business in a way that drives performance, innovation, and strategic advantage. Working with industrial companies, what we hear from executive is this: we know AI is important, but where do we start? How do we move from buzzwords and complexity to clarity and results? And that is exactly what today's session is designed to address. In just 45 minutes, we will explore the key leadership mindsets, organizational readiness, and strategic roadmap required to turn AI into a business accelerator, not a science project. Leading this conversation are two Altix senior industrial transformation experts. Yannick Schilly, co-founder, president, and CEO of Altix Consulting, brings decades of experience leading global industrial operations and digital transformation initiatives. Andrew Byers, senior advisor and AI strategy expert, is a seasoned practitioner with deep expertise at the intersection of advanced manufacturing, data science, and organizational change. So together, they will help us cut through the noise, identify what matters, and gives you practical insights to lead with confidence. With that, let's dive in. Yannick, over to you.
Thank you, Anne. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to our friends in Europe. Welcome to all Industry 4.0 enthusiasts, and welcome to everyone embarking on an AI journey, specifically an industrial AI journey. So glad to be with all of you today, and I think we have a good program. We have a lot of content for very little amount of time, so we'll be diligent with you. From a format standpoint, we will have our presentation. We'll have 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. So what I would invite you to do is mark your questions at about 10:30. Please put your questions in the chat, and we will take as many questions as we can at the end. But from a pure time management standpoint, it will be more efficient with the number of participants we have to just go through the presentation and do the question and answers at the end. With that, Andrew, if you can go to the next slide.
Yep, give me a second. Yep.
Yeah, from an agenda standpoint, we'll cover the AI journey, 10-15 minutes of Q&A, and we'll wrap up on time, letting you go back to work at 10:45. Next slide, Andrew, please.
Yeah.
So most of you know me, but for those who are new, Yannick Schilly is my name. I'm a co-founder of Altix and also its CEO. I also lead practice group strategy and operation, and as I mentioned, more than 3 decades in industry and many digital transformations, and a lot of industrial AI since the last few years. So it will be my pleasure to guide you through this webinar today. And I want to hand over to Andrew for his introduction.
Okay, my name is Andrew Byer. I worked 39 years in P&G and its supply chain. I worked across the supply chain. I worked across the globe. For about 10 years, I was a leader in the supply chain digital transformation at P&G. And the last 5 years, I was a leader of the supply chain know-how licensing. So not only working in P&G's supply chain, but working in other companies' supply chains and other industries. So a supply chain and digital veteran. Okay. Sarah, I think you're going to need to advance the slides. Okay, so we get into data. We're in the era of data and AI. The most important thing is to understand AI runs on data. Okay, please build. It is the foundation of everything in AI. And then please build. Technology is AI technology uses data to deliver better results. Okay, we go to the next slide, please. And 90% of the world's data was generated in the past 2 years. So what that means is that the potential for business is immense. There is all this data that's out there, and AI tools can help you with collecting, analyzing, synthesizing, helping you make better decisions, get better ideas, and ultimately to deliver better results. And, this is not a situation that's going to change. It's going to start separating the winners from the losers, because the winners are going to be able to use the data to deliver better business results, right? So it's not about AI for AI's sake. It's about AI to deliver better results. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? So let's talk about AI and data independently. I really like the model on the right because it helps think about what data means in an AI context. But data is a bit dry, and I was thinking, the analogy I would give you is like ingredients in cooking, right? Your systems and sources are like your ingredients and where you get them, the supermarket, the produce from a farmer's market, or maybe it just exists in your pantry. The cleaning, integration, and governance is like opening the packaging, checking whether it's expired, right? The analysis, labeling, and normalization is like measuring, slicing and dicing, deboning, getting it ready to use. And then the cooking is like using the data in AI models and algorithms to generate better results, right? So data, it's the foundation, and it's what you're going to use to get better results out of AI. Now let's talk AI. The first thing I would tell you, AI is not a monolith. There's so many people out there just saying AI, and a lot of them just think it's a synonym for ChatGPT, but there are many different types of AI. And when you start to understand that, first of all, it demystifies AI, which can help with your organization. We'll talk about that later. But also you can start thinking about how you can leverage it more and more, right? Like I said, it's like saying business and thinking it means one thing. Saying AI, it's like that. It doesn't mean one thing. Next slide, please. So as we start to talk about AI, this is another model I really like. It's from a guy named Warren Powell. If you've not heard of him, he's a really accomplished thinker. He's an MIT PhD. He spent 39 years teaching at Princeton, and he's currently an executive in residence at Rutgers Business School. And what I really like about this model is it's both simple and it's comprehensive. If you look on the right in purple, he's really categorizing AI into two different areas: making computers behave like humans. That's most of what we have today. And then making computers smarter than humans. And that's mostly what's going to be in the future, or what you hear people speculating. There's a timeline on the left, and there's kind of levels in the center. And you see things like rule-based logic, machine learning, large language models, etc. Frankly, I would also tell you things like, if you think about AI as making computers behave like humans, I would tell you things like robotic process automation and algorithms, things we've been dealing with, for decades, would also fit. Right? Next slide, please. So before one of the things I tell people is, if you're embarking on this journey, you need a reasonable understanding, not leading edge. If you'd spend all your time trying to stay up to date, and things change constantly. So it's really not a good use of time, but reasonably conversant is wise, right? You can understand the capabilities. You can understand when people come and talk to you about ideas or tools. So let's talk a little bit about capabilities. The first is narrow AI. Sorry, can we go back? Yep. Narrow AI is most of what you see or use today. This is designed to perform specific tasks like voice recognition or image classification. Think of virtual assistants and Siri and Netflix recommendations. It excels in its specific domain, but it lacks general reasoning capabilities. Then there's artificial general intelligence, or strong AI. And this is under development, right? But this would let machines apply intelligence across a wide range of tasks, much like a human. But this is still theoretical. and not yet realized. And then there's the future, super intelligent AI, which surpasses human capabilities in every aspect: creativity, problem solving, even social interactions. And this is really speculative. It would take decades. Now, then you get into types of AI, and I would say, again, be conversant. Machine learning, this is an AI that learns from data instead of following fixed rules, and things like recognizing patterns or predicting outcomes. Then there's generative AI, which is building on machine learning and creates new content like text, image, music, code, and it's generating something that doesn't already exist. Then there's natural language processors, which helps machines understand, interpret, and use human language, like Spanish. It allows AI to read, write, and translate and respond in natural human-like ways. There's large language models like ChatGPT, a special type of generative AI that uses machine learning and NLP to work with text. LLMs can understand and generate human-like language. They're writing emails, taking meeting notes, etc. So how these connect: machine learning is the foundation. Generative AI uses machine learning to create new things. NLP helps AI understand human language, and LLMs combine all of these to generate and understand text. Then there's chatbots, and most of us are familiar with them. If you go to a company's website, they love having chatbots pick off things before they have to have humans. It's built on natural language processing. It interprets user inputs, extracts meaning, and generates a human-like response. It's powered by machine learning and LLMs. Then there's agentic AI, and you may be hearing and reading a lot about agentic AI, and I'm not sure it's always meant as the high-level agentic AI, where AI systems operate as autonomous agents capable of setting and pursuing their own goals rather than simply reacting to inputs, and with limited human interaction. It learns, it adjusts, it can integrate and coordinate with other agents and other systems. A lot of when you see people talk about agentic AI today, it's narrow AI agents connected, not the independent learning and thinking. And then there's some adjacent terms you might hear. Neural networks, these are inspired by the human brain and consist of interconnected neurons. This is one of the ways that generative AI connects to come up with its new content. And then, GPT, like ChatGPT, generative pre-trained transformers. It's, the generative is the text input it receives. The pre-trained, the model has learned on a large body of data before. And the transformer is taking that and generating, using the neural network architecture, creates new language sequential type data. So that's a quick overview of AI. Sorry I rushed through it. We have a full day and more class on this. I just thought it was important you have the overview. Sarah, next, please.
Thank you, Andrew. So I will make the bridge now to what does it mean for industry. And Sarah, you can already blend all the dates in. One of the things I would add to what Andrew mentioned when he said that at some point AI will be smarter than humans. So there are different scholars making different predictions. Some say it's 5 years out. Some say it's 10 to 20 years out. What I would say is, in many ways, AI today can accomplish things we humans cannot do. Like some of us speak multiple languages, but none of us can learn 200 languages. AI can, and it can do it fast. We can translate documents, but it takes us hours. AI can translate documents in seconds. So in very specific, narrow areas, AI is already today able to do things humans are not able to do. And I think this is really where the link to now, what does it mean for business and for industrial companies is meant, is what can AI do for us as an industrial company? So if you look, I like to look at long periods of history to understand the future. And if we look at the different industrial revolutions we had, every industrial revolution completely displaced the industry and completely displaced the way we work, and the way we operate. And I will not lecture now on the different industrial revolutions, but AI is a very important dimension of the fourth industrial revolution known as Industry 4.0. So on this timeline here, you will see a little bit the scheme of what large enterprises have been focusing on over the last 40, 50 years. So in the 80s, companies were all about mastering their core business, their core competencies. At some point, when they evolve and gain in maturity, they will focus on process improvement, putting management systems in, putting tools in like lean management philosophies on how to continuously eliminate waste and increase the productivity. So increasing productivity, reducing cost, reducing time, those two dimensions is what has driven industry over the last 130 years. And whether it's automation or digitalization, they all aim the same intent: how to be more competitive, how to have better products at lower costs, at better margins, and more competitive than the other guy. So in the 2000s, there was a big push in automation, industrial automation. Of course, some industries like electronics, automotive, mass production, they embarked the automation journey before that. But I would say there was a big followership in the early 2000s. Since the 2010s, there was a big push on digitalization, ERP systems, CRM systems, MES systems, getting the factory connected, digitized, industrial IIoT. And since the early 2000s, there is a big rush towards AI and what can AI do for us. Some large companies like Procter & Gamble, as Andrew mentioned, started the AI journey already in the 2010s. So here for that time summary here. Sarah, if you want to move on. So why AI matters and what does it do for us? So there is a big market shift. There are labor shortages, there are cost pressures, there is supply chain volatility, and AI is an enabler. It helps us getting more productive in predictive maintenance, keeping our machines running, process optimization, quality control. And through the processing power and data analytics, we can now process way more data than we could with the human interface. So we have additional productivity gains here. There is a lot of competitive pressure in many industries, and early adopters are gaining ground against others. This is why it is important to not go full in with AI, but it's also important to not delay the start of the AI journey. And the following slide, Sarah, if you can move on, will exemplify that. Modern tools win over traditional tools. There is not much to say about that slide. If you still have the old tool, you cannot compete with that guy. And the same is true in industry. Sarah, if you move on. Here the same. Automation is powerful. And even this type of automation, what can look very rudimentary right now, is very data-driven and very intelligent in the meantime, supported by AI to accomplish more and more tasks in a more efficient way. If you want to move on, Sarah. So how do we make sure that we don't stick in an age where at times our tools and legacy systems will be outdated? Therefore, it is important to think about the AI journey and to start to embark on the AI journey. Thank you, Sarah. So where AI delivers value in industrial operations, it's about in every function. It is in engineering, so enhance prototyping and design capabilities. Yeah. Shape recognition, checking, drawing compliance with our engineering management system or with some regulatory work. Procurement, whether it's identifying suppliers, contract writing or contract revision. In operations, we mentioned predictive maintenance, energy optimization across the operation. In supply chain, tons of applications. I'm sure Andrew will expand a little bit more on that with demand forecasting, with logistics route optimization, everywhere where you have a lot of data and where mathematics and operation research can deliver better outcomes. You need data processing and you need the support of AI. Quality check, detecting anomalies, vision system. So all of that are just a few examples, and you could go on with human resources, with finance, with financial planning and analysis. So the applications of AI are really everywhere. In marketing, in aftermarket and service, with the use of chatbots, for example, to offer 24/7 fast response to your customers for frequently asked questions. Thank you, Sarah. Andrew?
Yannick had mentioned some supply chain examples. Say I might have more. I love this example from Unilever's ice cream business. I know they've divested it to the Magnum company, but it touches on demand planning, supply planning, and transportation. What you can do with AI that you couldn't do before. And specific to ice cream, it is it's when it's hotter, people eat more ice cream, right? So it's seasonal. It's also a discretionary purchase. Unilever found a way to bring weather data into their long-term demand planning to understand what trends would be like for temperatures, where they might want to be changing their production and inventory planning for a long-range basis. And then they also used it on short-term planning, where a 1 degree centigrade difference can make a huge difference in purchase intent to adjust to where the weather is actually getting hotter, right? Heat waves and things like that, where they're looking at their inventory and reallocating it or adjusting production plans to get the right language artwork on the ice cream. Or it uses temperature controlled freight, so making sure the routing is optimized to cut costs there. But it was getting data that they didn't have in the past, which is weather, helping them feed into their systems for long and short-term planning, where they were achieving both cost and growth impacts as a result of that. So it's a great example. And like I said, who doesn't love ice cream? Next slide, Sarah. I think it's important. Many companies have older and very experienced and knowledgeable people, but the people you're bringing in today, they're the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha. They grew up thinking they could touch a TV screen, swipe it to change channels. You need to blend these people. And you need to do this in a way, if you want to bring AI in, that you're not getting people afraid that I'm not going to be able to have my job, I'm not going to get upskilled. And there are ways of dealing with this. Next slide, please. So industrial companies need to bring their employees along. They need to understand that the technology is here now, it's today, and it's going to be here tomorrow. And what we were doing yesterday, like, in the slides Yannick was talking about, they're not going to help you win in the future. And really, I love this quote because it's not AI taking jobs, but the people who can use AI to deliver better results who are going to be taking the jobs. Next slide, please. And then, what I'm seeing is, because everybody's in the same boat here, all the companies are trying to get the AI brought in with their current employee base as well as the newcomers, and it's leading to this best of that's out there. There are things that people can do that, like mentoring or creating safe spaces, or just helping bring their employees along. One of the things that I've seen that works well with middle management is, coaching people, just be humble and be curious. Tell the new people who know AI like the back of their hand, hey, I know our business, but I don't know these tools. Help me understand how they can generate better results, right? Just open the discussion. All right, next, please.
Yeah, I think when we talk about common pitfalls, the pitfalls are pretty much the same, like with all major transformations. We mentioned digital transformations earlier, lean transformations, automation. The fears are always the same. So we need to remove the fears. And as Andrew mentioned, AI is not taking jobs away. It's people mastering AI taking jobs away. And as we have seen with automation, automation was not destroying jobs. The world has more jobs today than it ever had in any historic periods before. So how do we approach transformations and AI transformations as an organization to avoid those common pitfalls? 70% today fail with the AI projects. They are stuck in pilot mode, according to McKinsey and BCG data. And main causes are unclear on value, lack of ownership, fragmented data. Consequences, companies feel we wasted effort, we are skeptic, we missed opportunities. So how to do it different? Sarah, if you go to the next page.
Sure. And I thought a learning example from my time at P&G on culture versus technology. And the area of AI was machine learning. We looked at bringing it in site production and material planning. This is very transactional work, repetitive, a lot of master data, thousands of employees. We thought, this is a good use case. For whatever reason, there was resistance to change. People didn't feel like the tool was giving them any added value. And we looked at it as kind of a failure. Meanwhile, in a related area, distribution requirements planning, which is also very transactional, master data heavy, we had a problem we couldn't solve. A DRP planner would have about 400,000 record locations with about 72 parameters in each location that they were expected to get the master data correct on and check it weekly. Because, of course, if you're planning with bad master data, your plans are wrong. Humans can't do that, right? It's 400,000 record locations times 72 every week. So not only weren't the employees able to do it, they really hated the work, when they tried to do it, because it's tedious. Machine learning could do this in minutes really well. That freed up employees to work on things like what ifs and cost savings and better ideas versus tasks they weren't suited for and weren't able to do well. And what's interesting about this example, the tool was identical. In the DRP case, we had a clear business problem to solve that we couldn't do with people, but technology could do it. In the site production planning, it was more about we had a tool that we were trying to chase a use case for, and people didn't go for it. So for me, that was a good example of how you can use AI to deliver results and where AI might just be considered activity and it's not going to work. Next slide, please. So I firmly believe that old cliche, all change starts with leadership. If you're a corporate leader, and I don't mean that you're C-level, you just, you have input or a place where you can make a difference on strategy, you can be a change agent on AI. A key point with AI, it's moving beyond technology and how you're going to be shaping your organization and the results your organization needs to deliver. And, it's getting AI not as this is how we do work, but into this is the results we get. And these are meaningful results for us. All right. Next slide, please. It's pretty obvious. AI will be a major transformation. It's going to require change. You're going to need to bring your organization and culture along on this transformation. Next slide. And part of that is, I mentioned earlier, AI is changing rapidly every day. It's not just something you can upskill people on it and we're done. It's something where you need a culture of perpetual learning. People are able to constantly adapt, right? And I'd also make the analogy, as you think about AI, just like it would seem ludicrous to say we only want a few people working with the internet. It's going to be similarly ludicrous to say we only want a few people working with AI, because the potential for an organization to deliver transformative results leveraging AI is immense, and it's going to start separating winners from losers. Next slide.
Yeah, so moving from ideas to impact, here's a very high level framework. It's always good to assess readiness. Yeah, where do we stand with our people, with our technology, with our data, with our culture? It's good to prioritize use cases. every company has problems to solve. So don't start an AI journey just for the sake of starting an AI journey. Pick a problem you have to solve anyhow and see how can AI accelerate the solving of the problem and the resolution of the problem. It's always good to pick business case and pilots which are very aligned with the business. Solving real business problems, aligned with the strategy, having a strong ROI focus. This is what will deliver successful pilots, quick wins, and this will give an appetite for more AI in the organization. A little bit like you have experienced quick wins with a lean transformation, you do more, or with automation. So from pilots with purpose, then you go to scale and sustain, establishing a strong governance, upskilling the people and working on continuous improvement. And you go from project mode into a process mode, having really an AI organization within your organization. So what should you do now? Start with business problems, not technology. Make AI a leadership accountability, like everything. If it's not top attention and top priority for the senior leadership, it will not be top attention, top priority for the rest of the organization. So how do you make AI part of your agenda, of your strategy? Don't underestimate culture and change management. This is always critical. Companies are made of people, so we need to accompany people on the journey for change. And build a roadmap that ties into your strategy. So bring in an AI dimension in your corporate strategy. It cannot be absent on your next corporate strategy. Sarah, if you want to move on. So this is a lot of content for very little time on a very complex and important subject. We wanted to share this with you. We have a masterclass on AI. It's called the AI Accelerator. The next cohort is on August 27 and 28. It's an afternoon and a morning. There is a dinner event as well. It happens here in Mason, Ohio. And in that masterclass, we cover those 10 modules represented here to really plan and develop an AI strategy and an AI masterclass. There are a lot of examples across all corporate functions, what are discussed. And the peer dynamics, the peer group dynamics enrich the entire experience with dialogues across AI journeys across different companies. So if you have appetite for more information on that subject, contact Anne or Sarah or myself, and we'll get you a seat for that event. I repeat, August 27 and 28 here in Mason. Those programs are also available as corporate solutions if you want to train your team, not in a public format, but more in a corporate format. Sarah, if you want to move on. So now there is time for Q&A. From a logistics standpoint, it will be easier if you post your questions in the chat, and we will pick the questions and go through them one by one. We'll take as many as we can. And if we can't answer them all, we'll be happy also to set up some time with you if you have further questions. So who wants to go first? You can also raise your hand if you prefer. So how do you identify the right AI tool? Andrew, do you want to go with that?
Sure. What I tell people is always start with the simplest tool. It depends on what you're specifically looking to do. For example, if you're converting training materials into other languages, you're going to use a natural language processor. If you're dealing with a master data issue, you're probably going to look at machine learning. It's not, I would say the complexity is not about the right AI tool for the job, but actually integrating the tool into the way you do work and where your master data is. Hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you, Andrew. And there is a question from Brian Costigan. Brian, if you want to go unmute yourself and go ahead with your question.
Hi, I'm Brian Costigan, Director of Strategy at Enable Injections. When we've dabbled with AI here, one of the roadblocks we've encountered is around the data foundation. So going back to your pyramid early on, those first three levels seem really, really key to getting good output, useful output from AI. So just wondering from your guys' consulting experience, when you work on AI projects across all these different companies, how significant is the data foundation piece before you even get to the AI piece?
Yannick, if you're okay, I'll start.
Please.
I think your assessment is spot on. It runs on data. If you don't have access to the data is wrong. It doesn't exist. You're going to have problems. But my experience at P&G, machine learning helped us fix our data, right? In my example of DRP, where the reason our data wasn't right was because humans couldn't do the work. We brought in machine learning, and it was really a simple way to start getting our data accurate, right? They always say data needs to be available, it needs to be accessible, it needs to be accurate. So, don't rule out all of AI. Sometimes machine learning, which is the foundation of a lot of the tools, can help you fix your master data so that it is usable for higher order technologies.
Yeah, I would just add to that, Andrew, that yes, AI is really the foundation for data is really the foundation for AI. To a large extent. Nevertheless, there are automation applications where you can embark artificial intelligence in vision systems, for example, for quality control, where you can build that new system within a few months, and you don't need a huge history or legacy or foundations of data. So it depends on applications. But for the most part, absolutely right. AI requires good data foundation. We have a question from Stefan Valiser. Stefan, you want to raise your question?
Or it's in the chat.
Yeah. Thank you, Yannick. I put it in the chat, but it goes along with other questions I have seen posted. When you say that 90% of data was created in the last couple of years, there will be a lot of fake data. And I'm not talking about data which we have in our master data in the company, but when it comes to generative AI and content creation, I guess AI tools will draw from data which are available on the internet. And I guess with so many data have been created just recently, there's a lot of fake data out of there. So how do I check what databases each tool do draw from compared to, so not only trying to find a tool, but also then when I have a choice of several tools, is there any way to check what databases those tools get their information from?
Yeah, I'll take this one, Yannick, or at least I'll start. A company could spend all their time trying to check what tools AI gets their data from. I think it's known at this point, AI can hallucinate. There was an article in the New York Times 2 weeks ago, a poet asked AI what they thought of their work, and AI said, "Oh, I love your work. In fact, I've used it to teach my courses." The students were really responsive. The author went back and said, "You're teaching courses on my poetry?" And the AI agent said, "Oops, you caught me." I mean, literally, true story. It was New York Times 2 weekends ago. But the point is, we know it hallucinates. What that really tells you is you can't turn over the keys to your company and your decision making and your business process to AI. It is an input, right? Just as my Unilever ice cream example, the weather from AI was an input. It helped long-term planning, which has wider tolerances, and it did influence short-term planning, but there were still people looking at it and saying, does it make sense? Is it right? And that's where you get the blend of your employee base with their experience and their know-how with the outside information that AI can give you. You can't trust it implicitly. You have to have people look at it, and where it adds value, accept it. Where you're concerned, you can validate or you cannot accept it. But I just would not, I would not tell people it's a good use of time to try and figure out where it's getting its data from, because it is not something you're going to be able to easily do. Can I, unless you have something to add, I'd like to actually pivot because it connects to the other question we got from Dana.
Go ahead.
So, that question is about protecting data, because, hey, if we put a prompt out into ChatGPT, now, what we might be thinking about from a marketing idea or from a price point is now in the ecosphere of what ChatGPT could pull, or other agents and other companies might get this data. And there is a lot to be said for governance. Larger companies are creating firewalls, right? Before I left P&G, we had our own in-house Chat PG, where you could get the benefits of it without your stuff going out there. For small and medium-sized companies, this may not be affordable. You may need to have some real governance about what you do and don't allow employees to ask to protect your sensitive data, right? Because once it gets out there, you can't control it.
Yes. I would add to this, Andrew, link to the two questions. How do we make sure that the data processed from the internet is accurate? So the only thing I would say is, like every tool, we need to be smart about how do we use the tool. So we won't allow AI to take over human tasks, especially tasks from very senior people, making very important decisions for the company. A tool, like every tool, like a chainsaw, is a productivity enhancement. So how does it make us faster and better in analyzing large quantities of data and processing data? But let's not use it for everything. If not, we will fail. So we need to develop those muscles in the organization about how to properly use AI and how to train our people to properly use AI. The same way, we need to really control boundaries of how do we import and export data from our company, avoiding that we import the wrong data or export data we don't want to export. We don't want to export our intellectual property, which is now in the public domain. So there's a lot of education to do for people just to do the right things so that we don't jeopardize. And I think a lot of companies now are having aha moments in realizing, oh, shoot, we just posted something to 400 people. What should have never been posted, or we just put something in the internet what should not be there. So there is a real and quick education need for people in the industry. So let's see if we can take a few more questions. I think we have 1 minute. Any other questions? If not, Sarah, you can already go to the next slide. So AI, like many other things, open a lot of questions. There are a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of doors we could take, a lot of paths. Nobody is ever alone on a journey. So if you need help, some people like us can help you. If it's about embarking on an AI journey or educating senior leaders, middle management, or leaders or subject matter experts, feel free to reach out. And I see there is a question, will we be able to share the PowerPoint? Yes, we'll share the slides and we'll share the slides as a PDF. So thanks everyone for joining the session. I will hand over to Anne for some closing comments. Anne, you're muted.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for the Altix webinar, Unlocking AI Business Impact. We hope that this session brought some level of clarity and certainly some inspiration in the short amount of time that we had. And certainly if you have some additional needs and questions, we invite you to take the next step with us. One of the ways certainly is the masterclass on August 27th and 28th in person in Mason, Ohio. Also can be offered inside your company. And we look forward to hearing from you. We will also be happy to share the slides from today. So wishing everyone a wonderful day. We start on time, we end on time. And we look forward to having next conversations with any of you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.